It was supposed to be one of the most impressive signs of North Korea's military modernization in years. A brand new warship capable of delivering massive amounts of firepower would take to the seas, allowing North Korea's president, Kim Jong-un, to send a simple message to the rest of the world. North Korea's navy is stronger than ever. Watch out. Now, the message is very different. Kim just faced total humiliation as his brand new warship sank before his eyes. His grandiose launch has devolved into a fiasco from which North Korea's navy may never recover. On May 22, North Korea held a huge ceremony to mark the launch of its new warship. The vessel, which is the second of the new Choe Hyon-class ships in the country has built, was supposed to sail away from port deeper into North Korea's waters as part of an event to showcase that the country is building its military strength. That's not what happened. Within minutes of the vessel exiting its dock, it was already in trouble. It was only a short time later that the new ship ended up lying on its side, having capsized during the launch. All that's left now is 5,000 tons of ship that appears to remain partially submerged at the launch site. Kim is furious. He branded the entire situation as a criminal act caused by absolute carelessness and irresponsibility, as he placed the blame for the entire situation at the feet of the engineers responsible for building the ship. Even worse for Kim is that this never should have happened. The country has already successfully built and deployed one of its Choe Hyon-class ships. It knows how they're supposed to work. At least it's supposed to know. What happened on May 22 raises questions about the entire future of the warship class, not least of which is whether it was simply lucky to get the first Choe Hyon into the water, or if what happened on May 22 was simply a case of something going catastrophically wrong. It may be the latter. In a YouTube video covering the incident, The Sun outlined how the sinking of the Choe Hyon-class ship may have happened. It says that early footage from the disaster appears to show that the warship's bottom was crushed during the accident, immediately affecting its ability to stay balanced in the water. That happened because North Korea attempted, and failed, a side launch of the ship. In the past, the country has relied on the tried and tested practice of sending its warships down a large ramp so they can enter the water stern first. With the Choe Hyon, North Korea believed it had a ship capable of pulling off the more modern side launch method. Clearly, neither the ship nor North Korea's military personnel were ready to pull this far more complex maneuver off. The result, what was meant to be a showcase of the country's growing naval strength, turned into a comedy of errors. Speaking to Reuters, Asian Institute for Policy Studies member Yang Uk explained what he believed happened. "I presume this incident occurred because North Korea has a lack of experience in launching large vessels of this scale using side launch methods," he told the outlet. He also explains why North Korea attempted a side launch in the first place. The reason for using side launching is that it allows for launching even in extremely tight spaces. North Korea practically had to use this method because it had developed a warship that was far too large for more traditional launching methods. In particular, as warships become larger, it becomes increasingly difficult to recover buoyancy using stern launching methods, Yang explained, which is why side launching is often employed. Except side launching typically isn't used for ships the size of the Choe Hyon-class. Side launching is typically applicable only up to small and medium-sized ships, says Yang. As warships increase in size, navies tend to opt for safer methods, such as placing the vessel in a dry dock and submerging it in water for launching. The dry dock issue will be revisited shortly. What can be gathered from Yang's comment is that North Korea thought that it knew what it had to do to get its new ship in the water. The country's navy was either so confident in this knowledge or so pressured to get the new ship sailing as quickly as possible that it rushed ahead with a technique that wasn't suitable. The result, as is now evident, is a massive ship that was basically pushed over into the water and now lies on its side. And it gets worse for Kim. Satellite imagery shared by the War Zone, or TWZ, showcases just how bad the situation has become. Those images show that North Korea has covered a large part of its ailing warship with a blue tarp, which appears to be a vain attempt to hide it from view. However, the images still reveal more what appears to have happened, as explained by Ideas Lab members Joseph Bermudez, Victor Cha, and Jennifer Jun. The bogies under the bow, wheeled units under the frame carrying the vessel as it slides into the water of the side slideway, apparently caught or fell off the rails, resulting in the stern swiping out into the Ohang harbour while the bow remained on the side slipway. Their joint statement reads, That suggests that there was a problem with the launching mechanism the North Korean Navy used to get its new ship in the water. Something gummed up the works, leading to an unwanted staggered launch that sent the ship crashing stern first into the water while its bow remained stuck. There are other potential contributing factors, the report claims. Right now, the trio says it's unclear whether the crane and deck barges previously seen at the port from which the ship launched had anything to do with the accident. However, had these barges been working on the side slideways rails and the work had not been undertaken with care and inspection, it may have been the root cause of the launching accident, claims the report. The shipyard used to launch the ship may also have been a problem. As noted in our previous report, the trio says, it was unusual that the Hamburg shipyard was selected to undertake the construction of the second Choe Hyon-class warship. That shipyard has only previously produced cargo, fishing and patrol vessels, suggesting a full-blown warship was outside of its scope both from construction and dock suitability standpoint. And that leads right back to something that we mentioned earlier. Hamburg shipyard is not the sort of dry dock typically used to launch ships of the Choe Hyon-class's size. Former South Korean Naval Admiral Kim Duk-ji explains why this is a problem when speaking to CNN. He notes that a dry dock is a basin-type facility that North Korea could have filled with water to float its ship without having to side launch it at all. Dry dock is an expensive facility, Kim explained, and North Korea probably doesn't have one. Not only has that lack of a dry dock impacted this failed warship launch, but it might cause problems as North Korea hurries to repair its capsized vessel before it sinks altogether. It's easy to repair a ship in a dry dock after draining water, but they don't have that facility, says Kim. That lack of a dry dock could lead to repairs taking several months instead of the weeks they might have otherwise required. It also further demonstrates what's already evident. North Korea can take a massive warship to water, but they can't make it float. The worst of it all is that the new ship was launched amidst massive fanfare and a ceremony that included Kim Jong-un himself. He took the seat of honor at center stage before the launch, listening intently as his naval personnel talked about how launching this new ship was such a massive moment for the country. Kim also wasn't alone. Accompanying him was his daughter, Kim Jong-un. The younger Kim is somewhat of a mystery in international circles. Her true age isn't even known, though it's speculated that she's anywhere between 10 and 13 years old, based on various reports and her first public appearance in 2002. In the past, some have speculated that the older Kim is using his daughter as a way to soften his image in the world's media. After all, how can anybody hate a man too much when he shows affection to such a young child? More recently, there's been growing speculation that Kim Jong-un's frequent public appearances alongside her father are part of an effort to groom her to become North Korea's next leader. For instance, January 2024 saw her walking alongside North Korea's leader at Pyongyang's international airport as a massive intercontinental ballistic missile idled in the background. The Guardian suggested that this carefully orchestrated media event may have been designed to introduce North Korea's next leader to a soon-to-be adoring public. Kim Jong-un's presence at the failed launch of North Korea's warship only adds fuel to that particular fire. It also accentuates the humiliation President Kim must feel over this whole debacle. His daughter is often referred to in North Korean media as a great person of guidance despite her young age, says The Sun. Kim will be furious because what happened on May 2022 has the potential to tarnish that image. Along with the picture of North Korean superiority Kim spends so much of his time attempting to paint. Kim isn't taking this humiliation lying down. His response to the failed ship launch was immediate and furious. Beyond branding the entire episode as a criminal act, as mentioned earlier, Kim has demanded that repairs to the scuttled ship take place as soon as possible. Calling the situation a matter of national honor, Kim is demanding that the situation be made right in time for the upcoming late June plenary session of the Workers' Party. There's more insight into what Kim is feeling from the state-run North Korean KCNA news agency. Essentially, speaking on Kim's behalf, the agency said, "Due to inexperienced command and operational carelessness, the parallel movement of the bogies cannot be guaranteed, resulting in the launching sled in the stern detaching first and causing the ship to capsize. The ship's balance was destroyed due to a rupture in the hull in some sections, and the bow section was unable to detach from the keel." That confirms what TWZ reports about the possible cause of the ship capsizing. Kim Jong-un made a stern statement, saying that it was a serious accident and criminal act caused by absolute carelessness, irresponsibility, and could not be tolerated, the report concluded. The fact that this report from North Korea exists at all is an interesting break with tradition. Normally, Kim and the North Korean leadership tend to try to keep quiet about the many failures its military experiences as it attempts to modernize. Often, it gets away with it. However, the capsizing of the second Choe Hyon-class warship was a massive media event. It may have been screened on North Korean television, and certainly can't be hidden away from locals given there's a massive warship lying on its side in a North Korean dock. Kim had to go public, and he's made it clear that heads are going to roll for the incident. That will be examined in more detail a little later in the video, when the implications of this massive failure for North Korea are explored. For now, the focus shifts to what North Korea has potentially lost due to this incident, a powerful warship that it believed would bring it closer to parity with the more powerful navies of the world. The Choe Hyon-class is the first destroyer that the North Korean Navy has ever built. It's widely regarded as the country's response to the Aegis class of destroyers, which is among the United States' most combat-capable warships. And on the surface, the North Korean ship is very impressive. It measures around 470 feet long and is capable of displacing around 5,000 tons of water. It also comes loaded with an array of sensors and processing systems, including phased array radars and a Type 362 air-to-surface search radar. Add to that a trio of fire control radars and a pair of navigation radars, and the result is a solid sensor system. The ship also has countermeasure dispensers, allowing it to deal with electronic warfare efforts. But it's the firepower North Korea claims the ship has that makes it a terrifying prospect. That firepower starts with a 127mm or 130mm naval gun, though it's not yet known what that gun is or how many rounds it can fire per minute. The ship also has 3 close-in weapon systems, including one Panzer Me and a pair of 30mm AK-630s. 4 anti-ship missile launchers are loaded into the ship, as are a pair of torpedo tubes and 4 Bullseye 4 launchers. But it's the vertical launch system, or VLS cells, that are the ship's true standout feature from a firepower perspective. The Choe Hyon has 74 of these VLS cells, which TWZ speculates North Korea can use to fire air defense missiles and potentially even a new North Korean supersonic cruise missile. It's believed that North Korea has packed VLS cells of at least 4 different sizes onto the ship, giving itself the option of firing multiple types of missiles in the process. Oh, and Kim Jong-un also says that the ship will be capable of carrying tactical ballistic missiles and nuclear-armed cruise missiles once North Korea is able to build those weapons. Of course, it's important to recognize that these statistics come courtesy of North Korea, so they may be exaggerated to make the Choe Hyon-class more impressive than it really is. But even if the ship isn't quite as capable as is claimed, it's still an impressive piece of naval hardware. If the second of these destroyers wasn't languishing on its side in a dock that should never been used to launch it, we could even argue that the ship represents a major step forward for North Korea's navy. But right now, it doesn't. Instead, the second Choe Hyon-class ship is the source of one of the most severe humiliations Kim has experienced on the global stage in quite some time. And that leads to ask the obvious question: what happens next? One of the consequences of this failed launch has always been noted. Kim says that the officials he believes are responsible for this failed ship launch will be dealt with at the plenary meeting of the Party Central Committee in June. This high-level meeting of North Korea's ruling political party is also the deadline Kim has set for getting the ship operational again. So the officials have to somehow fit what will likely be about 4 or 5 months of repairs without a dry dock into the next month. And even if they pull it off, Kim is going to punish them. The exact nature of that punishment is unknown, but odds are those officials' families aren't going to see much more of them in the future. Beyond meting out these initial consequences, Kim has to deal with the fact that this failed ship launch has exposed his navy as being incapable of the modernization that he's attempting to force through. North Korea's leader has long been pushing for what he dubs a second revolution of his country's military, which still relies on outdated Soviet-era hardware and poor equipment developed by North Korea itself. That modernization is supposed to help all branches of North Korea's military catch up to the asymmetrical threat presented by its missiles and nuclear weapons program. However, the modernization is as unstable as the Choe Hyon-class warship now lying on its side in the sea. On the naval front, CNN says that the launch of the Choe Hyon-class ship was supposed to be part of North Korea's most ambitious naval modernization in decades. Instead, it's just exposed that the country isn't ready for the types of ships it wants to build. Therein lies another problem Kim now has to deal with. His own demands for getting the capsized ship built and launched as quickly as possible were likely a contributing factor to the fiasco he was forced to witness on May 2022. TWZ says there were already plenty of signs of corners being cut even during the earlier stages of the warship's development. For instance, weapons trials were likely carried out before the ship even had its full complement of propulsion machinery fitted. TWZ says that implies the ship was towed out of the harbour for those tests in a desperate attempt to project power that North Korea hadn't yet created. The country also claims to have built its first Choe Hyon-class ship in about a year, with the building of the second that's now capsized likely being as quick, if not even faster. While it's somewhat impressive that North Korea was able to so quickly pull off the construction of these ships in such a short amount of time, a year is nowhere near long enough to conduct rigorous testing. Even if the corners being cut weren't responsible for the second of these warships capsizing, the odds are that they would have started causing issues later on. That speed of construction also raises an interesting question. Is North Korea's naval modernization more about building up national prestige than it is about developing a credible threat against its enemies? It's possible, perhaps even likely, as the Kim family's entire leadership relies on propaganda. If the second Choe Hyon-class ship had made it safely to water, that might have been all that Kim needed from the ship, a vanity project of sorts that was never meant to go much further. Perhaps that's why the launch was such a grandiose affair, with fireworks and Kim's personal attendance along with his daughter. Granted, the ship's weapons mean it could be a threat, even if that threat isn't as large as North Korea claims. But that also doesn't matter now. If prestige to feed into Kim's propaganda was the goal, a capsized ship represents a massive humiliation. No wonder Kim is so angry. For now, all that's left for Kim is to wait and see if the ship can be repaired at all. CNN says that the KCNA says it can, as further investigation has supposedly revealed that there are no holes in the ship's hull, though there is a massive scratch along its starboard side. There's also some seawater in the stern that needs to be cleared out, though how that jives with the claim that there are no holes wasn't made clear. North Korea's estimate for the repairs is 10 days. That seems unlikely, as does the repairs being completed before Kim's June deadline, given the country's lack of a dry dock. What's known for certain is that the ship won't be entering North Korea's navy anytime soon, and could even end up proving to be a complete loss that would amount to hundreds of millions of dollars simply sinking beneath the waves. But what do you think about the capsizing of North Korea's second Choe Hyon-class warship? Can Kim recover from the humiliation? Will North Korea manage to make the ship operational again? And what will it learn from the mistakes that led to this disaster? Let us know your thoughts below, and remember to subscribe to The Military Show for more up-to-date news and information about military affairs in North Korea, Ukraine, and around the world.